Solo leveling. In this world, portals containing monster-filled dimensions have appeared, threatening humanity. Simultaneously, humans called hunters have awakened supernatural abilities to combat this threat. These hunters are ranked in the class system from E, the weakest, to S, the strongest, reflecting their abilities. But for most hunters, their power is static and cannot grow beyond their established rank. The story follows Sung Jinwoo, an E-rank dub, the weakest hunter of all mankind, who after a near-death experience gains the distinct ability to level up beyond the limitations of the existing class system. This story pumps me up, and I'm not alone. Solo leveling is one of the most watched animes on Crunchyroll, consistently breaking ratings records, surpassing the likes of JJK, placing it amongst the top-rated animes on the platform, competing with established giants like One Piece and Demon Slayer. And while I love solo leveling for its beautifully choreographed action scenes, the robust class system, and world building, what resonates with me the most is the power progression. The arc of a character starting weak and growing strong, defying the established hierarchy. Look, I am a sucker for the prototypical underdog narrative. It speaks to this inner conviction of mine that I'm also destined to walk a similar path of evolution. And looking back, I've always resonated with this concept of leveling up, and in turn, it's fed my love for RPGs. I have always enjoyed playing games like MapleStory, Final Fantasy, and Kingdom Hearts, all in an effort to satiate this inner desire for growth. While you would think most people would welcome a system architect to orchestrate growth in their lives, many people prefer the familiar, comfortable feeling of being stagnant. In Carol Dweck's book Mindset, The New Psychology of Success, she contrasts the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, highlighting the different behaviors, beliefs, and outcomes. In other words, a static hunter versus a hunter that can level up. A fixed mindset assumes that intelligence, talent, and abilities are predetermined. They believe these are inherent traits that cannot change very much. Therefore, fixed mindset folks focus on proving their ability, avoiding failure, and seeking validation. The solo leveling comparison might be an A-rank hunter that feels inherently superior to B ranks and below. Knowing you have an edge up on the competition can be comforting and even cultivate a little bit of pride in us. If I'm naturally better and other people can't catch up no matter what they do, there's an established hierarchy and I'm high up on the food chain. However, a fixed mindset can be misleading. It can make people fragile as they become intolerant of mistakes, devalue effort, and reject criticism. It can also lead to fear of challenges. A fixed mindset breeds the tendency to feel utter failure and paralysis, even in the face of minor setbacks. In other words, a fixed mindset stifles growth. Fixed mindset people voluntarily restrict themselves to be hunters destined to remain in their class. In contrast, a growth mindset is based on the conviction that certain qualities and competencies can be cultivated through effort, strategies, and help from others. It emphasizes that everyone can change and grow through application and experience. That might mean you have to start at the bottom as a measly E-rank hunter, but it also means your potential is S-rank class and beyond. Growth-minded individuals value effort and learning as a path to mastery. As a result, they look for lessons in challenging times and persist in the face of setbacks, fostering resilience. In solo leveling, Sung Jinwoo was gifted this unique ability to level up. In our world, however, we all have a choice to adopt a growth mindset. There's no cinematic moment, no esoteric architect, no robust system is necessary. Here's a snapshot of the two mindsets. Which characteristics resonate with you? Which one sounds like Sung Jinwoo to you? Which mindset do you currently hold? Pause the video to reflect if you wish. Look, I have no judgment towards static hunters. In fact, I believe we all have fixed mindsets when approaching certain domains. For example, for a long time, I was really comfortable being a star in rec league soccer. I was a big fish in a really tiny pond. It's a natural inclination. It's easier to bask in the glory of being an A-rank hunter than to climb this long uphill battle to become an S-rank and beyond. That being said, this video is for those who want to adopt a a growth mindset and become a player in their own system RPG. This video is for those that embrace starting as an E rank in order to unlock limitless potential. So here are the 4 steps I took to create a solo leveling system architect in real life. Number 1, I categorized my life. Number 2, I mapped out Litmus test criteria. Number 3, I filled out my self-assessment. And number 4, started leveling up. P.S. I'll include a Notion template in the description so you can create your own system architect too. Step 1. Categorize your life. The first thing Sung Jinwoo sees upon his awakening is a screen with his base level and stats, visualized in video game form. In the world of RPG video games, a common measurement system is used to evaluate and showcase a character's skill sets, a radar chart. This chart measures the various aspects of a character's skills like attack, defense, speed, and health. The chart then assigns an overall rating, a snapshot of your avatar's abilities. As you level up, the radar chart will visualize the depths of your abilities. I used the radar chart to measure my own hunter progress, to see where I excelled and see where I needed to grow. It was the starting framework for my personal system architect that unlocked the ability for me to level up with intention. I visualized the domains in my life that were important to me on the web intersections of the chart. I examined these specific areas: professional, health, finances, recreation, relationships, spiritual, growth, environment, and social conscience. You may have different areas of focus, and that's totally fine. For example, some people like to split relationships into 2 categories: family and friends. There's really no hard and fast rule on how you segment or how many categories you have. I find a good rule of thumb might be around 5 to 10, so you're not too overwhelmed, but that's really up to you. The key is to choose areas that are important to you and you genuinely want to grow in. Step 2, map out litmus test criteria. Not to state the obvious, but leveling up requires a baseline level and ranking. That means we have to rate ourselves in each hunter stat for each category. To do this, we'll double click on each category and define the criteria for our experience gathering. I call these quests, but you can call them dungeons if you like. These criteria I laid out for my quests aren't arbitrary. I reflected on what would bring me joy and fulfillment in each category. I envisioned what my ideal state would look like 2 to 5 years from now and crafted quests based on that vision. For each life domain, I plotted down 10 quests. For example, in the health domain, I jotted down criteria like this. I sleep 7.5 plus hours a day on average. I have an intentional workout plan that I act on every day. I stretch, strengthen, and rehab every day. In the finance domain, I jotted down questions like this. I have an active budget I update at least once a month. I have 3 to 6 months expenses saved in a liquid emergency fund. I have 20% plus automated to flow into savings. In the environment domain, I jotted down questions like this. I have a clean, organized, and decluttered environment. I live in a beautifully designed space that reflects who I am. I'm a plant daddy. These criteria made up the friction points for my experience gathering, and being thoughtful about the quests made the level progression feel challenging yet fun. It takes genuine effort and intention to achieve these criterion, but the end result is rewarding. I followed these 3 important principles when crafting my self-assessment quests. Consider these guardrails also to make your solo leveling RPG process more clear and experiential. Number 1, have a balance of input and output metrics. Number 2, make your criteria a Boolean signal. And number 3, map out progressive criteria. Have a balance of output metrics and input metrics. Output metrics are overarching measures that are the result of compounded effort. Input metrics are leading indicators that influence or roll up to the output metrics. To illustrate this concept, Sung Jinwoo may set his input metrics as dungeons cleared or gates entered, directly reflecting the effort he expends, while output metrics may be levels gained or new skills acquired, a quantifiable increase in power. In real life, in the financial domain, an output metric may be saving for a down payment, while the input metric may be saving $1,000 per month. In the health category, the output metric may be reaching a certain body fat percentage, while the input metric may be eating at home 5 days a week. So why is it important to include both? Having solely output metrics can be misleading. Output metrics are often lagged indicators, meaning the effect of your input metric on your output metric is delayed, but it will eventually show its contribution. For example, if you exercise this entire week, your body fat percentage may not shift by much, but the effect is taking place. If you only have output metrics, you have a snapshot of your current performance, but you may have a false sense of your your overarching trajectory. Input metrics, on the other hand, are easier to immediately influence. By having input metrics in tandem, you have a good pulse on how you're trending while it's taking time for your output metric to manifest. This combination gives you a good short-term and long-term view of how you're performing. Make your criterion a Boolean signal. A Boolean is a true or false signal. It presents a yes or no litmus test that leaves no room for fogginess. A Boolean in solo leveling might be has shadow being successfully extracted. It's either a successful extraction or not, but no in between. In life, an effective Boolean might be setting a health goal of having 18% body fat percentage or less, whereas a fuzzy goal may be losing weight and looking great by wedding season, which leaves room for interpretation. Be specific. Set crystal clear criterion. If you can't state in a simple, straightforward yes or no response, then the criterion needs to be restated. Finally, map out progressive criterion, meaning one criterion builds upon another. As a hunter, you might set a goal to clear a C rank 8 before a B rank 1. In life, you may set a goal in your business to reach 10K revenue per month, and then a cascading goal to reach 20K per month. Or you may want to learn how to do an assisted pull-up before an unassisted pull-up. Breaking up your quests into escalating criterion makes your RPG feel more fulfilling. It creates a stage-by-stage leveling up experience instead of having sporadic, directionless activity. If you're feeling stuck with drafting up your criteria, I created a starter hunter template with pre-populated experience gathering that can help you get started on your journey. This criterion represents my ideal self, my personal version of an S-rank hunter. What does an S-rank hunter look like for you? Each person will have a different picture of what that optimal self looks like. For example, you might want to automate 33% of your savings instead of 20%, or you might function well off 6 hours of sleep instead of my 7 hours, or you might want to be a puppy daddy instead of a plant daddy. Anything goes, as long as you can look at that final set of experience gathering criterion and be happy with the direction you're going. Step 3, fill out a self-assessment. On to the gut-wrenching part, self-reflection. When Sung Jinwoo first awakened, he was reassessed, only to find out the difficult truth that he was still a measly E rank. But that gave him an accurate view of what raids he could currently handle and what he couldn't. It's your turn to determine your baseline level in your RPG. Now that you have your criterion, you have to answer them one by one. If you're using my template, go to the level assessment tab, mark the checkbox if the answer is true, and leave the checkbox empty if the answer is false. Be honest with yourself. Reviewing these criterion will feel like holding up a mirror, forcing you to be introspective. It may be uncomfortable, but it'll give you an accurate and authentic snapshot of how you're performing in your life relative to what you want to achieve. Once you're done, the main dashboard should automatically populate your skill level in the radar chart, and voila, that's your starting hunter level. From here, set a cadence to periodically fill out the assessment again. Revisit this template bi-weekly or monthly as your life evolves. These checkpoints are the equivalent of your personal system architect surfacing a screen with your next quest, giving yourself a frequent pulse check of how you're progressing. Unlike solo leveling, where you achieve a level and never regress, these answers and criterion are two-way and dynamic, meaning they can rise and fall depending on your stage of life. Over time, as you conduct more level assessments, your answers can and will change. For example, you might dip into your savings to buy a new car, reverting your savings goal. Or you might have less time to stretch in the morning because work's been busy. If you scale back a couple levels, don't fret. This is a way for you to have fun, stay accountable, and challenge yourself. Moving back a few levels only makes the RPG process feel more fun and experiential. The beauty is you can always change your criteria. If you feel your criterion is too unachievable, you can always pivot to ease the leveling process. If you feel you've leveled up too quickly, you can kick hard mode into gear and swap the criteria with tougher ones. It's your personalized system architect, your RPG, and your life. Step 4, start leveling up. Now that we have our baseline level ready, you know what to do. Just like battling a dungeon boss, you can't defeat your foe in one swift swing, unless you have Sung Jinwoo aura. You'll need to chip away at your boss one turn at a time throughout countless turns. As Sung Jinwoo levels up, he's granted points to increase his stat levels such as strength, agility, intelligence, and vitality. In your measurement system, you get to select what to work on from a handful of life domains and a Rolodex of experience gathering criteria. Narrow down your focus into 1 to 3 life domains. This prevents you from from spreading yourself out too thin. Just like Sung Jinwoo, you can be strategic with the different areas of life you want to focus on in different seasons. Initially, Sung Jinwoo was focused purely on strength to get through earlier level dungeons. Eventually, intelligence was critical to grow and maintain his shadow army. To choose a focused life domain, consider factors like your season of life. If you're a recent grad, you might be more focused on building a stable foundation with your finances versus someone in the 30s who might focus on health or family. Priorities. What is most important to you when these categories are stacked ranked against each other? Tangential impact to other domains in your life. Maybe you value career progression, but improving your health boosts your mood and energy at work. Time and urgency. Forgive me for getting a little deep and personal for a moment, but when I found out my dad had a heart attack, all other priorities were out the window, so I didn't know how much time he had left. Thankfully, he was okay. Interests and passions. What do you genuinely enjoy? What activities inject energy in you? What are you doing when time flies by? Fulfillment. What aligns with your values and brings you a sense of deep resonance? That being said, here are two other lenses you can consider: your strengths and your weaknesses. Being a jack of all trades is overrated. My personal philosophy is to bring my weaknesses to an acceptable baseline threshold and then focus the rest of my time on my strengths. Though Sung Jinwoo had increased stats like vitality in his earlier levels, he did it to meet a good enough threshold to gain endurance for fights. But once Sung Jinwoo committed fully to being the next Shadow Monarch, his core focus went into intelligence-based stats, and that decision granted him exponential power. Directing your attention to strengths does a few things for you. Working on your strengths gives you energy and replenishes you. Your morale is boosted and you see outsized progress, which creates a cyclical loop for you to want to focus on it more. You yield a much better return zoning in on your strengths. A real life example is spending time developing a natural talent versus a physical limitation. If you're 6'4" with a large wingspan, you have the foundational building blocks to be an extraordinary swimmer. But if you're 5'6" and your dream is to surpass Michael Phelps, your goal may be unrealistic. Counterintuitively, your weaknesses are still important to give some energy to. Don't neglect it. Your weaknesses can manifest into a hindrance in your life if you don't get it to an acceptable standard. For example, if finances aren't your strength, but health is, your inclination may be to focus on athletics. But if you're in crippling debt, you might not be able to grow in your athletics if you can't afford a personal trainer or even a gym membership. Or if you neglect your relationships and spend all your time focusing on your career, you might find yourself burning out really quickly without a community to support you. So what's the balance? There's no magic formula. You'll have to experiment and fine-tune your life to find that balance for yourself. You don't need a demonic architect to dice up your limbs to give you a system window to help you grow. Instead, download the free Notion template below so you can tap into your personal system architect and put your growth mindset into practice. Let me know in the comments below which life domain you're focusing on and pulling your stat points into first. And you might have noticed this is my first ever YouTube video on my channel, so from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for sticking with me until the end of this video and kicking off my YouTube journey with me. If you want to live your productive life in video game edition and follow my leveling journey, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on your next loot box. Happy leveling!